Hey guys, welcome. All right, let's get started. So thank you for attending the live streamers Toolbox, and thank you for attending Boxcast's ugly Christmas sweater day.
Yes, as you can see, we are definitely rocking our ugly Christmas sweaters.
So I'm rocking some of my favorite pets, and I apologize if some of my bells start ringing in my lavalier microphone. So let's go ahead and we'll get started by introducing ourselves a little bit. My name is Josh Clements. I'm a video content specialist here at Boxcast, and on the side, I am also a creative director at a company called Bumble Media, and we just do live video and creative videos and wedding films and stuff like that. And I work with this guy.
Yeah, and my name is Wade Clark. I'm a technical support analyst or technical support rep here at Boxcast, and I'm a media director at a company called Bumble Media. And fun fact about Bumble Media is that's actually me and Josh's company that we do on the side that we started in college together. So we have definitely used all this stuff we're going to show you today, and we're excited to kind of talk about it.
Sure.
And one thing before we get started, so not only are we hosting the webinar, we're actually producing it too. So we might be getting up to change camera angles, or as you can see, I'm on my computer over here live switching the event.
And I'm controlling the PowerPoint, and Wade's got the audio handled over there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of pieces and parts that we're doing ourselves, so don't think we're just like looking down at our computer, looking somewhere and not paying attention to you guys.
Yeah,
we're just making sure this goes smooth.
We're producers and hosts today.
Yes.
Okay. So, and also on that last slide, if there's anything you feel like we didn't cover today, or you still have questions about your setup and your specific goals with live streaming, feel free to reach out to us anytime. We're available via these email addresses, and we're happy to help you because we were in the same place probably 5 or 6 years ago when we were getting started.
Certainly.
And the biggest pain point we want to solve today is just helping to demystify all the confusing terminology and live video streaming equipment.
And a lot of things too is we would run into a lot of problems when we first started, and we didn't know how to solve those problems. And the equipment was out there, and all the tools and pieces we needed were definitely out there. We just didn't even know where to start.
Yeah, because there's so many confusing terms and acronyms, and there's so many different pieces of equipment that can get involved as you start to expand and grow your production. So we just kind of want to explain that to you today, and then give you recommendations and show you some of the things we love to use.
Yeah.
So that being said, before we get started, if you don't want to listen to us ramble for the next 30 to 40 minutes about this equipment, you can go ahead and download this presentation in the description right below the video player. And if you want to see all the video equipment we're recommending today, you can just go ahead and click in the link below the player to our kit, which is a really nice website that just displays all the equipment we'll be talking about today, along with like video cameras and other video switchers, cabling, audio, etc.
Right, it's awesome. I think Josh is the one who kind of built the kits out, and he has nice little bundles for everyone. So if you're like a beginner in live streaming, I think there's like a beginner's live streamer kit, there's an advanced live streaming kit. You can click in there, buy the items right away. It's actually a pretty cool site.
All right.
Yeah.
So, oh, another thing to mention too is we do have a live chat feature here today, and we have live moderators here to answer your questions about anything with your live video setup or any questions about Boxcast that you might have. So if you want to ask those in the chat box right now, and if you want to ask us directly, just wait to the end of the presentation and we'll go ahead and answer those personally. So our goal here today, like I mentioned earlier, is to teach you about video streaming equipment in the live streaming space. And that can enhance or make your workflow easier. 1 second, I think we're having technical issues.
There's no image.
There's no what?
What is that? New to Bayview. Text, what is that?
I have no idea.
It's coming, it's coming.
any questions about Boxcast that you might have. So if you want to ask those in the chat box right now. And if you want to ask us directly, just wait to the end of the presentation, and we'll go ahead and answer those personally. So our goal here today, like I mentioned earlier, is to teach you about video streaming equipment in the live streaming space. And that can enhance or make your workflow easier. 1 second, I think we're having technical issues. There's no what? What is that? New to Bayview. Text. What is that?
I have no idea.
It's coming, it's coming.
And we're back. Sorry about that.
All right.
That's what happens when you try to also produce
let's
a
switch
webinar.
to the wide feed for a
slash,
second there.
That's what happens when you produce a webinar slash set up the webinar, do all that stuff by yourself. So,
Yeah, sorry about that. We accidentally had a graphic overlay that was just kind of a sample graphic overlay in our dashboard that was just displaying full screen. So we didn't realize that because we're mixing it here in the studio, and that was just a weird thing we didn't realize.
And must have been put on there on accident. So anyway.
So it happens to us too.
Yeah, things happen. And we're going to hopefully prevent that, but you can see even the live stream professionals, things happen sometimes.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Let's go to our goal.
Let's go to our goal. That being said, our goal today as experts is to teach you about equipment in the live streaming world that can enhance your production and or make your workflow easier. Just things that, makes life simple or takes it to the next level. So today we're going to talk about converters and scalers. Then we're going to move on to encoders, and we're going to talk about our Boxcast encoder specifically. Then we're going to talk about intercom systems, which is just something that takes you to the next level if you have a small video production team. Then we'll move to video switchers, actual hardware switchers if you're doing a multi-cam production. And we have 2 that we're excited to recommend to you here today. Then we'll talk about video recorders, which is actually the device that takes the output from the video switcher and gives you a high quality recording. And then last but not least, my favorite, gaff tape, because you can never have enough gaff tape. So we'll explain just the benefits of that and why it is like the lifeblood of it. Yeah, let's switch to the wide feed for a second. But we'll go ahead and get started with converters and scalers. So a converter is a device that takes one type of signal and converts it to another type. So I'm sure you've seen this before with audio stuff and video stuff. An example would be converting an HDMI signal to an SDI signal, or the other way. A scaler, on the other hand, is a device that can expand or shrink the resolution of an incoming video signal.
And we're going to
For example, 1080p to 720p. And it can
Yeah,
also
so
convert
let's
and
go to our
change
goal.
the frame rate as well.
goal.
That being said, the times that you're going to find that you need this the most is when your frame rates and resolutions probably all need to be the same. You might find it to be really valuable when you need to extend an HDMI video signal to a longer distance, and then of course it's just if your video switcher or your encoder can't accept a certain type of signal, you might need a converter in order to make that adjustment.
Right, and I know that a lot of times too, when we've done some multi-cam shoots and asked someone to bring their camera, it might not be the same as our camera. But and it also in that case might send out a signal that's not the same as our camera. So generally, a scaler is a good way to have all the signals be the same. Have their camera match your cameras. It just makes life a lot easier.
Exactly. So the reason we talk about converters and scalers together is because of our favorite converter-scaler combo. This is called the decimator, and we like to call it the Swiss Army knife because it does pretty much anything you need to get you out of trouble when you feel it. It's got HDMI inputs, SDI inputs, and it can convert and scale your
converter
signals,
is a
both
device.
simultaneously.
One type of
So we like it because it's super versatile. Like I said, it comes in handy in a lot of different situations, and it just comes, it's like super helpful when you're dealing with presenter laptops and other unknown devices and you need a specific type of signal. So maybe your presenter showed up and he has a laptop that's outputting a weird resolution or format. So you can just plug into this device and it's really easy in order to get, maybe you need a 1080p signal. It's really easy to plug into that and get the right resolution and frame rate. And so we'll show you a little bit about it here. We switch to the overhead shot. And this is a decimator. See, it's like bright red, definitely sticks out a little bit. And that being said, it's got HDMI inputs.
Right, and I know that a lot of times too, when we've done some multi-cam shoots and asked someone to bring their camera, it might not be the same as our camera, on the other side, and it also, in that case, might send out a signal that's not the same as our camera, so generally it scales.
Is if you were to plug an HDMI source into here and come out SDI, you can also loop
HDMI out as well. So that's a very useful thing to have when you're in the field.
Yeah, and then let's get on to our next one that we'll show you, and that is the decimator, kind of like the mini, or the little brother decimator to this guy here. And essentially what it is it's a bidirectional converter. So what it can do, it's pocket size, you can see. It does HDMI input to SDI, it does SDI input to HDMI, and also, so it can kind of do a little bit of everything. It can't scale like the other one, but essentially we'll just jump right into it and show you. Boom. So as you can see, real small, nice and easy to use. And as you can see here, you got your HDMI in, your SDI out, your SDI in, your HDMI out. And Josh, you were saying something. You could go HDMI in, and you could go SDI out, HDMI out too?
Yeah. So basically, if you needed to, if you wanted to output a signal to your video switcher, for example, and you wanted to send it over SDI, you could go SDI in and SDI out, and then at the same time, if you wanted a monitor on top of your camera, because a lot of cameras won't output both at the same time, you could go HDMI out to the monitor on top of your camera. So that's a really useful thing. So it's not just going one way, it's going two ways. So it's really great.
Alrighty. Let's try this for the third time.
So we may have bit off a little more than we could chew.
Yeah,
today.
definitely. So
Sorry about
being
that.
with the holidays, we're a little short-staffed, hence why we're trying to kind of do it all ourselves. What had happened is when we had that graphic overlap the first time, we were checking it on the computer here, and then we hit play, which then started double looping our audio in, which generally we have someone who can listen and they'd be able to hear it and fix that on the fly, but since I'm in this seat and he's in this seat, you know, it was kind of hard to fix that when we didn't know what was going on. So we are going to start over again, and we are going to make sure we get this working the right way.
All right.
So,
thanks so much for your patience. We
thanks
really
so much for
appreciate
your patience. But let's jump into the presentation. Like I said, full restart. Thank you guys. Sorry for the confusion, and let's get it rolling.
We'll send you a clean recording as well.
Right.
After the fact, so this doesn't happen again, and we can just start from this point.
Right, exactly. So to introduce ourselves, my name's Wade, and I am a support rep here at Boxcast. So whenever you call the phones, if you're looking for support or you're a Boxcast client currently, or maybe you're not, and you just call to ask a quick question, I'm one of the people you could talk to. I also own a video production company with this guy that we started in college.
Yeah, my name is Josh Clements. I'm a video content specialist here at Boxcast, and we work in live video and creative video production. And you can contact us anytime if you have questions about your specific setups at these emails below. So if you go ahead and switch to that slide, you can show them kind of where to reach out to us about your specific live video workflows and any questions about, you know, getting started or getting help from us. And thank you again, like I said, for your patience during this. So before we get started, you can download this presentation in the description, and I can understand why you might want to do that with all the technical issues we've had.
Today might be the day we get the most downloads on that.
Maybe
guy.
today you just download it. Totally understandable. And you can just go ahead and check out all the gear we were going to recommend today anyway in the link in the description as well at kit.com, which has all of our recommended equipment that we've seen success with. So that being said, we do have, I'm sure you guys
are knowing how to use the chat box, because you're definitely telling us what's going on, so we appreciate you guys.
And if you stick around and bear with us, we'll do a live Q&A following the presentation as well.
And I think they can send questions to webinars@boxcast.com, right?
They also can, they can
so
also send questions to webinars@boxcast.com. So we have a lot of different ways you can get a hold of us, and we're happy to help. So let's dive right in. Our goal today is to teach you about equipment in the live streaming world that can enhance your production and make your workflow easier and maybe save you a couple of nightmares that you might run into during live streams. And let's hop right into it. So we're going to talk about converters and scalers. Then we're going to talk about encoders, so specifically our Boxcast streaming equipment that we love to use, and show you a little bit about those. Then we're going to switch over to intercom systems, which are a lot of fun when you have a small video production team that you want to communicate with, and we'll tell you some of the nightmares we ran into with those as well. Then we'll talk about video switchers. If you're doing a multicam video production or multicam live stream, these are the kind of devices you need, and we'll show you some of our favorite. Then we'll talk about video recorders, which will help you capture your video outside of live streaming it. And then, of course, last but not least, we'll talk about gaff tape and why we love gaff tape.
It's the best.
It's the best. And then, of course, we'll do the live Q&A. So let's start. Let's hit the ground running with converters and scalers. Converter is a device that takes one type of signal and converts it to another. I'm sure you've ran into these before. They can convert any kind of audio signal. They can convert video signals. There's like a whole myriad of combinations that converters can, go from one way to another. Very common example, especially in the video world, are converters that convert HDMI to SDI and back the other way. There are also devices called scalers. And scalers are basically hardware that can expand or shrink the resolution of an incoming video signal. So from 1080p to 720p, and it can also convert the frame rate. So if you wanted to go from 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second, you could do that as well. And then the best times you're going to run into these, I think we use them like all the time, is basically when you want to extend the length of a signal. You want to go, HDMI can, for example, only run up to 50 feet. So maybe you want to go from 50 feet to like 200 feet to 300 feet using SDI. Maybe you're having an issue where you have a presenter doing like a corporate live stream and their laptop is outputting like a weird signal, like a weird PC like 720 signal that doesn't go well into your switcher. So you could use a device like this in order to convert it to the proper thing. So that's really useful.
Yeah, or generally when we do like multi-shoots, or when we do multi-cam shoots, and sometimes some of the guys we work with have their own cameras, and they sometimes don't output the signal that our cameras do, so it's just nice to make sure all those signals are matching, especially when you put it in certain switchers and stuff that, we'll kind of get to the switcher part later.
Yeah, exactly. So specifically the reason we talk about converters and scalers together is because we have a device we love to use called the Decimator. The Decimator MDHX to be specific. And we actually just like to call it the Swiss Army knife because it does a little bit of everything that you might need to get you out of a tough situation in the field, and in order to really convert any type of video signal.
Right.
So it has HDMI and 3G SDI inputs. It will convert two ways, so it's called a cross converter, which means it can convert HDMI to SDI and SDI to HDMI. And a lot of times you'll find converters that can only do one type of thing. So this is why we like this. It also upscales and downscales, like I said, so from 1080p to 720p, or go back up from 720p to 1080p, and it can convert the frame rate, if you needed a lower or higher frame rate. So that's a very useful thing to have. But the reason we like it is because it's super versatile, like I mentioned. I'll just show you here on the overhead cam. This is the Decimator. It's like very bright red, very fun to use. And it's very simple. It almost looks like an old school Game Boy, actually. So you'll see on the side here, it has HDMI input and an HDMI output. And then it has a nice little threaded screwing in locking power supply right there. And then on the other side, it has a SDI input and two SDI outputs. So if you go SDI in, you can also go out two different ways, almost like what a splitter would do. And then it also has like a separate output here too. So it gives you a lot of variety for going to multiple places with your video. And that's what we like about it as well. So that's the Decimator. And like I said, it's one of those things, if you buy, it'll get you out of a lot of troubling situations. And,
right, and it's just nice to have. I know that we've used it before to send like an SDI feed in and then another SDI feed out to like a monitor or something that's 100 feet away or something like that. Like,
yeah.
It's all kind of the same signal, but it just, this feed needs to go to this projector, this monitor that's really far away, and you can kind of just loop back out and say, hey,
exactly.
go over there. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the next device we'll show you is also a Decimator, but what we like to call the mini Decimator. And this thing is only $99, so it's about a third of the price. And it's really fun to use compared to a lot of heftier converters just because it's about twice the size. It fits in your pocket, essentially. And this is what we call a bidirectional converter. So similar to the Decimator like we showed, which is also a bidirectional converter, basically that just means it can go both ways. And that being said, it can also go in one and out two. So if you wanted to go SDI, convert it to HDMI, you could also go SDI in, convert it to HDMI, and push the signal back out over SDI, which is really nice as well. And yeah, it's like Wade said, this fits right in your pocket. We have a couple of these that we take with us everywhere, and it's a lot cheaper than most converters that you'll find out there.
Right, and I would say, I mean, for $100, it's worth, if you plan on converting HDMI to SDI, I know Blackmagic makes one for maybe 50 or 60 bucks.
Yeah, they just released
but it's
a
only
similar
it's
one.
only one way, so it only goes SDI to HDMI or HDMI to SDI. But I really think spending that extra 30, 40 bucks on something like this, where you can go both ways if you need to, it's just worth the investment.
Yeah, and one
really
fun use case we found for these recently is we started putting monitors on our cameras. So like anytime we want to, what would you say, like we want to put a monitor on top of the camera, but we also want to output a signal to a switcher. Well, most video cameras don't actually output over HDMI and SDI at the same time. Yeah. So what this would allow you to do is go maybe SDI out of your camera, you'd plug into here, then you'd keep the signal going into your switcher, and then you could also go HDMI out into the monitor.
Into
on
like
top
a
of the
mini
camera.
monitor on top of your camera.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So that is the Decimator, but there's one other type of conversion that I think a lot of people don't know about, and that's the ability to convert HDMI over Ethernet.
Yes. So used to be kind of one of my favorites, honestly. As you can see, the price point's about $480. It's a little bit more expensive, but I'm going to explain why. But to get to basics, you know, you can extend a 4K signal. You can extend up to 4K signals over Ethernet. It has transmission over, you know, obviously an Ethernet cable. Main key things, if you're going to buy some of these, is you want to make sure it has this EDI pass-through or EDID pass-through and this HDCP compliant. If it doesn't have that, it could go into your switcher, or it could go into whatever you plug it into, and it could just simply not work because it thinks you're stealing. It like thinks you're stealing data.
Yeah, right.
But let's kind of show you what one of those looks like. And basically here are, you know, the kind of the two devices. So here you can see obviously you have your HDMI in, and you plug an Ethernet cable in, you got your HDMI out, or you go to Ethernet again, and then you go HDMI out. And the nice thing about these is, like I said, they're a little bit more expensive, which you'd be like, why wouldn't I just buy 2 of these and get SDI cable to run all the way if I have an HDMI camera that I need to send really far? Basically, here, I'll show you. We have some props under the table we'd like to show you guys.
Oh, man.
So
What a
this
beast.
guy,
If you don't want to deal with this.
if you don't want to deal with this, which is a 200-foot SDI cable that costs $300.
Yeah, maybe you don't have a lot of room in your studio.
Right.
Or,
You know, Ethernet generally is a lot cheaper. Ethernet, 200 feet of Ethernet maybe costs 30, 40 bucks, 50 bucks max. So you're kind of, SDI cables cost a lot more. So these are a little cheaper, but these are a little bit more expensive, and Ethernet cables cost less. So it's kind of like, pick your poison again.
right, pick your poison.
Yeah.
All right, and let's talk about encoders. So what is an encoder, Wade?
Ooh, great question, Josh. The encoder is the thing that is making this whole thing happen, making this whole live stream go. So here at Boxcast, obviously, we sell 2 different encoders, and I'm going to talk about the first one, which is our Boxcaster HDSD2. And essentially, the encoder, I mean, it's a device that connects a video source and converts the audio and video signals into something that can be streamed over a media server. So let's just kind of jump right into it.
Anytime you want to go live, you need an encoder, whether that's from a piece of hardware or a computer or a cell phone.
Right, exactly.
You need something to get to your server.
You need some device like this to send it out to the internet. And for our HDSD2, you can see it has, this is where you plug your cameras in. You know, it's got HDMI, it's got composite, and then this over here is where you plug the internet into. So you go Ethernet in here, power, and it also has this USB port, which is really just for our wireless scoreboard adapters. You know, it's not for anything else or a webcam or something like that. But the nice thing about this guy too is you could plug a camera into here, and you can also plug your soundboard feed into these red and white ports, the RCA ports as well. So you can kind of mix the video feed, mix the audio feed, and have a seamlessly, you know, synced up
If you don't have
live
an audio mixer, you can obviously, they're not very expensive. They probably only cost about 60 bucks. And so if you wanted to mix your professional audio and plug into the Boxcaster, you can do both. So you don't have to take the audio coming straight from the camera.
Exactly.
Another thing we just really like about the Boxcaster is you don't have to really manage it. A lot of equipment and a lot of encoders and devices, as they get more professional, you have to keep an eye on them and wonder how they're doing. But this is pretty much fully automated. You can control everything in the Boxcast dashboard, and as long as you schedule your events ahead of time and make sure they go live at the right times, and you don't include graphic overlays, and you don't include graphic overlays on your live stream while you're live, full screen overlays, then you're good to go.
Then you're good to go. And one thing too
I guess that might have been
nice is,
oh, go ahead.
Well, one thing I'll say about this, which is nice, is I know I've talked to a lot of organizations that just have left this device on for years. I mean, I don't know if I'd recommend maybe leaving it on for 2 or 3 years, but technically it's designed to be on 365, 24/7. This guy is really just kind of like a plug it into your equipment, leave it, kind of set it, and forget about it. And just schedule things in the dashboard, have them automatically go live at 10 o'clock or whenever, and you know, you're good to go.
Yep. And it's only $299, so it's pretty affordable, and it's pretty low maintenance.
Yeah,
that's why
and
we
you
love
can
it.
do Wi-Fi if you wanted to.
Yeah, it does do Wi-Fi. It does do Wi-Fi as well. But if you're somebody that likes to be more hands-on and monitor your stream and get the full experience, we have the Boxcaster Pro. And I, I wrote in the description here, powerful, supercharged, and everything you want in an encoder, because it truly is like, it's like the most complete encoder you could ask for. It allows you to stream up to 1080p at 60 frames per second. There are all the professional inputs you need. It uses H.265 encoding, which allows you to use which requires you to use about half the bandwidth, as most common encoders will do with AVC encoding. And then there's a really just slick touchscreen LCD that I'll show you right now. So we'll cut to our close-up shot here. And you'll notice right on the front, we have the touchscreen LCD, which lets you navigate through a different menu of options, and it lets you show the status of your stream. We can see what type of video signal I'm getting and the frame rate. And we can check out my internet status. We can see the IP address I'm getting, and we can recognize that we're streaming over Ethernet right now, not Wi-Fi. If we cut over here, we can actually cut into a full screen preview of what's going on. So I'm giving you a little
Boxcast inception.
Yeah, here's some inception of just screens on screens on screens, but this can be a live preview of what you're seeing on the stream, which is what we really like about it. And you've got diagnostics like audio metering here as well, and the number of viewers we have, which we'll say 0 right now because we're streaming to YouTube, but you kind of get the gist of that. Then we also have another audio section here, which I really love because you can just make sure you're getting audio levels the whole time and monitor and make sure audio is coming in. If you click on that, you'll see the ability to go further. And if you're going into our analog ports, you can actually adjust the gain. So it has some audio mixer-like capabilities here. The other thing I like about it is here on the side, we have obviously a screw and power cable. So this can't come undone. So if the stream goes out, that's probably because I did something else wrong. And then we have an Ethernet port right here. We also have the ability to monitor the audio with headphones. So we can just kind of plug this in, tune in, and check out what we're getting while we're going live. So then I can just check, monitor my audio, make sure I sound good. OK, great. And now while I'm live, I don't have to worry about, oh, audio's cut out. So really nice feature to have, really nice thing to be able to monitor on the stream itself. And then, of course, on the other side, I'll show you just the professional inputs that we have. We have XLR in and quarter-inch inputs as well, along with HDMI in and SDI in here. So really super versatile, super fun to use, live stream encoder. Oh, and of course, we have these indicator lights that will actually tell you when the stream is live.
Right, so this is actually the Pro we're using to stream this right now. So that's why Josh made the joke. If this thing were to come unplugged or we were to lose power or something, you know, the stream would stop.
Yep.
So
that's the Boxcaster Pro. And now we'll transition into intercom systems. Intercom systems are just basically a system that you use to communicate with your production team during a live event. And you need it anytime you need to direct and call out camera operators and tell people you're creating like a really smooth live event, not like this one where we're kind of just being like a little ad hoc, but like a live event where you need everything to run seamlessly. It's really useful in that case. So also you might have a graphics team, an audio team, etc. that you're talking to as well. So Wade will kind of give you a little demo of what that looks like.
Right, so let's say I was a camera operator. Ooh, it's hard to hear myself in here. Let's say I was a camera operator and I need to talk to Josh.
Yeah.
He's the producer. He's live switching. He's doing it all there. I would have actually my belt pack here that you could strap onto the camera. You can see it has kind of some, little strap here that you could put onto your camera or maybe actually put onto your belt. We usually put it on the tripod. And then all you do is just plug in here, and it has a 5-pin XLR system, at least the one we're showing you.
Yeah,
some other ones have normal XLR. This one has 5-pin XLR, which actually, here, I can do this and show you a little bit better so you get the vibe of what that looks like. And then essentially, I could talk to Josh the whole time he was producing. So if I had a question or anything like that, or something was going wrong with the live stream, we could communicate and be like, hey, do this, do that. Can someone run up here and help me?
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, get closer on that shot,
zoom
get
in.
a medium shot, zoom in, stuff like that. And I think we have here.
We do. We'll show you the
We'll show you the kit we actually
have.
use.
So we found, and we're gonna actually showcase this. This data video kit has a really long, complicated product name, but this is the best bang for your buck. It might seem a little bit expensive, but my advice is to spend a decent amount of money for a system like this if you're gonna spend the money, because you don't want during a live event not to be able to hear or for communication to cut out. Communication is extremely important, especially when there's a lot of viewers watching, right? So this is a nice kit because it supports 8-way intercom. There's 8 different people can talk at once, plus a director. It comes with 4 headsets. It comes with 4 belt packs, and then obviously you can add on and buy more if you need more over time. And then it also includes tally lights, so you can indicate when your cameras are live. And it includes the cabling, which is really nice because the cabling is usually like half the battle, and like
Right,
in
I would
this
say
whole
the
process.
cabling is like generally another expense that you have to like endure as a video person. You're just like, oh, now I have to buy $200 worth of cables.
Yeah.
You know.
Usually when you
So-
buy like video equipment, they don't include most of what you need, but this truly includes everything you need to do intercom.
Right.
Which is what I really like about it. So that's why the price is a little bit higher. We ran into a situation when we were younger where we tried to do wireless, and we
Yep.
bought like a cheap $800 wireless set because we were like, oh, wireless is cool. But the entire time we were at a graduation venue, and we just couldn't hear each other, and the signal kept
Right.
going
Yeah,
out.
I would say the first couple of times it did work okay, it worked fine, and then after a year or something, you couldn't hear anything the other person was saying, even if they were standing this close to each other, you couldn't hear them. So our general thing is, if you're gonna buy a wireless system like this, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
you
thousands
probably
of dollars to get the right one. Don't try to like cheap your way out of at least this process.
Yeah.
Like there's other things you maybe can do life hacks for and kind of do it, but with the intercom system, you want to make sure you're buying the right thing so your team can, you know,
Exactly.
everyone can hear.
Exactly. So, and you know, sometimes intercom systems can get up to be like $10,000,
Right.
$20,000 to do it really good in a wireless fashion. But we would just recommend like starting here. This is a nice middle ground between something that doesn't work and something that's way too expensive. So we'll show you a little overhead view. We'll show you on the back here. This is the main rack mountable kit that you can use to control it. And there's 8 different ports here for you to communicate with your team. So you, like I said, you can communicate with up to 8 different people. Maybe this is like, these are your camera operators, and then this side is like your graphics guy and your sound guy. So you can see how this can get really complex over time. And then on the other side, we've got the main console here. And sorry about the lighting here, because it's not super clear what these say. But basically, this just says all. And that's how you communicate with everybody all at once. So that's really nice. And then this says call, and these allow you to communicate with different people on the channel. So say I wanted to talk to camera 1 and camera 4 only, I could just click it like that. That's really nice and easy. Maybe I want to talk to my graphics guys over here who's doing lyrics. We can do it like that. And then I can mute myself completely over here. Couple other really nice features on here. I know Wade loves when I talk about these. There's a gooseneck microphone right here that you can plug into, and the director can use this to talk to everybody, or he can wear a headset. He or she can wear a headset as well to direct everybody. On this side of the equation,
Best part of this kit.
best part. I'm actually gonna go grab it. This is a light. This is really great.
Yeah, here, it's right over to the side, but
Just gonna show you
you know,
this.
we spent the money on this system, and it was really cool, and we're testing it out, and I swear, Josh pulls this light out of the box, and all of a sudden he goes, this is so cool. I'm like, when are we ever gonna use that? But honestly, we've used it a lot.
Yeah.
So I take my statement back. But
So this is the gooseneck microphone. I like to call it the Bob Barker microphone.
yep. So it's kind of like this, and it can bend and stuff. So you can
Yeah.
plug it right in, and you can talk through this if you don't want to wear a headset. If you're
Right.
like the producer or something.
And this is the light. Look at this light. This is gonna blow you away.
Boom.
Boom. Now you
Look
have
at that.
light. Dark environment, no longer.
It's not dark in here, but
Well,
we
you'd
have,
be
we're shining
surprised.
light at you. But really, we've this
You'd be
thing-
surprised if you need to control other devices and
Yeah,
stuff
I
with
will
it.
say, like I said, I wasn't
Turn
for the
that up.
light when we, first got this thing. But honestly, when we were shooting a graduation and it was really dark and, you're stuck in a corner, that light's super, super helpful. It's nice to be like, you don't have to take your phone out and basically like shine a light everywhere. You just got this thing, kind of lights up the production table and actually looks, looks pretty good. So I think the next thing we're talking about, let me flip back to the PowerPoint for you guys, is video switchers. So I know we have a lot of content out there in Boxcast world with video switchers and what you should get and stuff, but we really kind of wanted to show you guys what the ones we use are today. And what is a video switcher too, if you don't know. It's a device used to choose between different video feeds, including cameras, computers, and other video sources. It can also be used to apply video effects and mix audio sources. So when you might need it is multicam live streams, displaying graphics, PowerPoint slides, etc., integrating mixed audio, and adding video effects. So if that's, you know, lower thirds, or, you know, you could like do green screen stuff with it and stuff like
picture in picture.
Yeah. But let's go over to kind of our first switcher, which we're actually using, which is the Blackmagic ATEM TV Studio.
Yeah, this is the switcher we're using to control all the camera angles today and add any graphics and effects.
So, and just to be clear, it is this side over here. It does end right about here. This is a recording device that we're going to get into in about, you know, probably like 5 minutes here. It's our next slide, I think, or next couple slides. But this is the Blackmagic ATEM switcher. So why we kind of like it. They just released this, I think, at the beginning of the year. So it's about $1,000. And actually, I'll kind of pull some of the stats up for you guys so you can see it, and then we'll kind of go back to that. So it's got 8-channel SDI HDMI switcher, so you can actually do 4 SDI feeds and 4 HDMI feeds. It's got a little bit of an audio mixer in there, so that's where our double audio issues were happening earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
I had Josh's computer
we had multiple
audio
feeds coming in at once.
So we had his computer feed coming on, which was then doubling our audio, so it does work.
But it is cool that you get an audio mixer and a video switcher in one.
Right.
If you didn't have a mixer.
If you didn't
want to spend the money, you could get both of them.
Right. So it has a built-in front control panel, which I'd like to show you guys. It's got a multi-view output, which is actually what we're looking at to see all the angles right now. And it's got those upstream and downstream keyers to do like green screens and stuff like that. So to go back to the switcher, it's real simple, kind of. So here are all the buttons on here. So the green is preview. So you know, you can preview different angles. Let's say I wanted to preview, I believe 1 is the PowerPoint. 1 is our overhead camera. So 2 is the PowerPoint. Okay. So I can preview those, and I can actually see that on our multi-view display. And if I want to cut to that, I can literally just hit this cut button, and I can cut right there. So I can cut back and forth, or let's say I wanted to go to the wide shot, which is 5. I can cut, and here we are, and then I can cut back to here. So it's really nice because a lot of the ATEMs that were rack mountable didn't have this before. You always had to hook it up to a computer to make it work.
Yeah.
So this thing is definitely really nice. And the one thing you might be wondering, well, Wade, how are you controlling it then if you're not touching it the whole time? So ATEM actually has its own kind of software, which it's really hard to show you from there. But ATEM has its own software that you run on your computer, and a lot of people who use the ATEM stuff have this software on their computer.
It's like a full screen control panel where you can add all your effects.
Add all your graphics and stuff like that.
You can switch over to your audio.
Here, Josh, I'll let you run.
Yeah, you can switch over. Like here, these are called media pools where you can add graphics in.
Right.
And you can switch over and we can see our incoming audio levels as we talk. We can mute ourselves. We can raise and lower the levels on this. So it's pretty sick, to be honest.
Yeah, so a lot of people do use this kind of software when they have an ATEM. You know, not obviously super convenient because you need a whole nother device and a whole nother computer. So I think the next switcher we'll show you is a lot more user-friendly, and it's not as hard to like set up.
Yeah, and it goes really well with the Boxcaster, actually.
Right. So let's switch back to the PowerPoint for you guys, and we're gonna talk about the Roland V1 HD. So it's the same price as this Blackmagic ATEM.
Sorry.
It's perfect. Sorry. So it's the same price as this Blackmagic ATEM. It's got 4 HDMI inputs, no SDI, just so you guys know. And it's got a 12-channel digital audio mixer, so it does have its own audio mixing capabilities. It's got a nice little T-bar that we'll show you. It does picture-in-picture really easy. And if you don't know what picture-in-picture is, it's basically if we were to go wide, and let's say we always want to show you the PowerPoint. We could have the PowerPoint kind of in the corner. I'm doing a bad job showing. We could always have the PowerPoint in the corner over here as a picture-in-picture, or vice versa. We could flip it and have the PowerPoint as the full screen, and then us in the corner talking to you. So it is really nice and super easy to use. Let me actually kind of give you a quick little rundown of it. So as mentioned, it's got the HDMI inputs on the back here. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. There's a preview. where you can actually see all the angles that you have plugged in. There's an output. USB, this does have a computer control, so you could control this from your computer as well, but a lot of the time, I don't think I've ever have, to be honest, unless I'm doing something with multiple audio channels and I need to be able to raise the levels of those.
Yeah, I think this is more designed for the plug and play.
This is really designed for the plug and play. Like, it's so freaking easy to use, and it's got RCA over here, it's got its headphone jack, but really the quickest way to use it is let's say you just want to switch to camera 1 or 2, you just click 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the cameras are plugged into, you can switch to them.
Then it's got these effects buttons on the side, so you can do picture-in-picture just by clicking that.
Yep.
You could do like the ability to do split screen just by clicking, like you can preset that.
Yep, and then you can also have like white mix cut, so you could essentially be like, I want to mix every shot from like 1 to 2. If it was on, it would be like green and red, just kind of like the ATEM, and you could just go back and forth between your angles. This is definitely a switcher that I recommend to almost everyone, and especially people who have never done multicam stuff, because it is super freaking easy to use. It's plug
designed,
and play.
Yeah, it's designed for beginners.
It's designed for you to just plug HDMI cameras into it and go.
Yeah.
I know when sometimes we send people out to do shoots, when we have to be here or somewhere else or we're doing a shoot, and essentially we'll be like, take this Roland, take 2 HDMI cables, take 2 cameras, and go.
Yeah.
And it's like that simple.
Exactly.
So,
but I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Well, Josh and Wade, why these switchers are the same price? Why would I pick between one or the other? That's a great question. They are the exact same price. One has more professional inputs and outputs. So if over time you're getting started with video switching, but you think you want to scale to like larger cameras, SDI cameras, and you want to be able to plug in XLR, and you want to be able to have like more professional audio mixing capabilities within that, I would do the Blackmagic ATEM. But if you think like you just need a simple 2-3 camera setup and you just want to very simply on a tabletop switch between one or the other,
right.
I would go with
or
the
if
Roland.
someone you're going to teach people how to use video switching, or let's just say you have a volunteer that's helping you, or someone that's like your little cousin who you're like, I'm going to run a camera, but you need to do this, and they don't know anything about this. This is the thing to use for sure.
If you're letting your little cousin run the show, go with the Roland.
Yes.
I would also say like the Roland actually has the ability to do picture-in-picture, which the Blackmagic doesn't. The Blackmagic ATEM lets you overlay graphics, like lower thirds and full screen graphics and stuff like that, but the Roland actually lets you do the picture-in-picture effects and the green screening effects.
Which is cool.
Which is cool for the price. And the Roland also has built-in scaling, which is also why it is the same price as the ATEM, whereas the ATEM, actually you have to have the same video resolution going into all of them.
Yes.
So it's an important feature to remember.
Right, so all our cameras right now, they're sending 1080p 60.
Yep.
But if one was sending, let's say, even something as little, I mean, they're not completely, they are different, but 1080i 60, you'd be like, wait, these seem really close. Why is it not working? It's like they have to be the exact same signals. So if it's all 1080p 30, all the cameras have to send 1080p 30 into this guy.
Exactly.
So unlike the Roland, which actually has kind of like a 1080p, 1080i, 720 kind of, not scaler on the back, but you can
it scales all the incoming signals.
Yeah.
And you don't have to think about it. It's just one less thing for you to, it's one less hassle for you to have.
Exactly, exactly.
So let's talk about video recorders. I'll explain a little bit about what those are. Basically, a video recorder is a device that allows you to capture high-quality video and record it onto memory cards, whether those be SD cards or CF cards or even like SSD solid-state drives. And we're going to explain 2 more prosumer level recorders that we love to use today. And the reason that you'll find video recorders to be useful is that it allows you to record outputs directly from your switcher and mixers. So an encoder can do that, but a recorder does that as well. It's also very good for backing up your live stream content locally. I think it's a lot better to go directly into the recorder first before you go, into your encoder, because if you have an internet outage, you lose all that content. Whereas the recorder's better, like we're recording today, so we're able to go in and edit things and change things around if there are issues during the live stream.
Right. So like the beginning, we can just go in, chop it out,
trim it out,
we're good.
Boom. But that's a really nice, easy feature to use. It also lets you record higher quality files, like bigger file sizes that are better for post-production and color grading and all kinds of editing things. So the first recorder, Wade will actually show you, which is the one that fits perfectly with our Blackmagic ATEM.
Right, so if we flip back to this angle, so here's the Blackmagic ATEM, the video switchers has already kind of did that. Here is the HyperDeck Studio Mini. So essentially it fits really, really nice with this other unit, and essentially what we use it for is to obviously record all of our like raw data for the live stream. So as you can see, we're recording right now, and if I were to hit stop, it would stop recording, and if I were to hit, record, that's right there. Also, the nice thing about this is it has 2 SD slots here. So if you stuck another SD card in there, it would essentially roll right over to that one. And I don't know if you can see because of lighting, but it actually tells you how much space you have left here. So like right now, this card has 12 minutes. So, and it's been going for 58. So essentially, we will, if I were to, let's say, I was nervous, like, oh, it might, run out of space or something like that. I could stick another card right in there. And it's going to essentially roll right over to that one when it's done.
Yeah.
If we keep going for more than 12
So if
minutes.
you have a long event, like a 4-hour event, you don't have to worry about that record time cutting off. It's really super, super useful.
Yep.
And then I'll show you another recorder that we like to use as well. And that is... Come on, PowerPoint. There we go. That is the Blackmagic Video Assist. And this one's a little more versatile. It's a little easier to take with you. It doesn't have to be rack mounted. You can put it on a tabletop tripod. You can put it on a camera. Just really fun to use. And do you want to actually plug it in while I explain all that? We'll just show you a little bit the touch screen. It's got a really nice full resolution touch screen on it. It can record up to 1080p at 60 frames per second. So it can't do the 4K like the other one, but it's also like $200 cheaper. It's got loop-through video outputs, so you can send it right into a recorder and then right out to your encoder. And then you can store, a single SD card. But the real reason we like it is just like SD cards are super cheap. They're really easy to find. You can buy a lot of them. When you're recording a lot of data, you don't have to worry about like doing this massive data overhaul to clear your cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one thing we personally have never kind of gotten into is the recorders with the solid state drives.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people use those, and they're definitely great.
Yeah,
even like something
they
like
have higher speeds.
Yeah, and especially even something like a HyperDeck. But for us and the events we do, it's just easier to do SD cards in.
Yeah.
Get a 256 gig SD card.
Yeah.
And then just hit record, and it's good to go.
Yeah, there's not as many variables that can fail in the field. It's one less piece of equipment to have to worry about.
Right.
And it plugs right into your computer, and you can start uploading it right away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll show you a little overhead view of this, actually. So this might get a little weird because
oh man, we're going back to Inception.
Back to Inception. But this is the Blackmagic Video Assist. You can see here it's got this nice little touchscreen interface, and then you can see all like the audio meters and like the play buttons and the histogram right here, and it just gives you the ability to check out everything going on there. On the side here, like I said, this is the SD card slot right here. And then this is a headphone jack.
Which actually, the other one we showed you does not have a headphone jack. The
Oh,
ATEM
it's
switcher
very important,
does,
yeah.
but this is really, really important
Yeah.
for when you are recording. You're like just double checking, am I getting
Yeah,
audio
it's true.
good? The other one doesn't. So
Yeah,
that's,
in some ways this is more functional,
Yes.
which is kind of funny. And then on this side, it has your inputs and outputs. So it's got HDMI in and HDMI out. So you can go right in and go right back out to your Boxcaster or a monitor or any other device. Then you've got SDI in and SDI out right here. And these are actually what are called mini SDI connectors.
there's a more technical term, but we just call them mini SDI
Yeah.
connectors.
They're basically is mini SDI, kind of like how mini HDMI works. And the nice thing about this is this will also convert, which a lot of people don't realize, but you can go HDMI in through this connector and SDI out here. So you may not even have to buy a converter, a separate converter to go along with this device.
Right.
And that's the touchscreen on it, and we love using it. It's more for like putting on top of a camera. So like here you can see there's these 1/4-inch threading holes right here, so you can mount it in like a versatile amount of ways. But for the most part, we use the middle one, and we put a tabletop tripod there, and then we just mount it on our production table. And also, it's really cool. It's got this little kickstand, and there you go. Then it doesn't fall.
You can set up.
Wow, look at that. So that's actually a very versatile little recorder as well.
Yeah, and I say
if you don't need rack mount, I would go with that option. It's obviously a lot cheaper.
Yeah, that's what we used probably for 2 or 3 years before we ended up getting this guy over here.
Upgraded
Just because it fit in the rack.
Exactly.
Really, that's probably the only
Yeah,
reason
we like the
upgraded.
rack mountability of the other one. All right, let's talk about or not last, because we have one more thing after that, but
the most
gaff tape.
important thing of the day.
The lifeblood of your production setup is gaff tape. And a lot of people don't realize, but gaff tape is fairly expensive, but that's for a reason. It doesn't leave a sticky residue on it. You know, when you pull up duct tape off of a surface, duct tape and other types of tape leave that weird sticky residue and probably peel paint and are destructive to the environment. Gaff tape, not so much. It's not as destructive, and it doesn't leave that weird adhesive residue on things. And then the black coating on the other side of it, which I guess we can show here. The black coating on it doesn't like reflect light or like bounce light, like in the same way that you would see duct tape.
Shiny silver duct tape.
Yeah, shiny silver duct tape. So that's why it's always a little more expensive, but it's just really good for wrapping cables. I would say it's good for high traffic environments where people are walking through. You don't want people to trip over your cabling. So just making sure that's all clean.
And I think you can order it in 2 inches, like in width, and you can order it in 3 inches. So if you generally what we do is we'll run all of our cables and then we'll just gaff it all down.
Yeah, with one. Yeah,
with one clean strip.
Yeah,
and I think Josh already said this. I was kind of doing some switching, but it doesn't get all your cables sticky. Did you mention that?
Yeah, it doesn't stick. Your cables won't get any weird residue on them or anything like that.
Yeah. So the soup, like you said, it sounds overrated, but if you want to see what it does, get some gaff tape, then go get some duct tape, and I want you to tape down a cable, leave it for an hour, and then come back, and I want you to nicely peel the gaff tape off. Like, oh wow, I might be able to I might be able to reuse this.
Yeah, if you're,
and then I want you to
you're really running out of money.
I want you to peel the duct tape off, and you'll go, now I have to clean my cables.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And now everyone's mad at me because I just put duct tape all over their walls.
I put duct tape over, and I might have ripped off their wallpaper.
Yeah. So that's the advantages of gaff tape. We buy like tons of rolls of it. We never run out of it, and we take it with us everywhere we go. And then last but not least, for live video streaming, we really recommend you getting an Ethernet switch. The advantage of an Ethernet switch is it allows you to connect multiple Ethernet devices to just one hardline connection. And anytime you go to a venue, you're likely not going to get 5 Ethernet cables to one device. You probably just get one hardline that the venue or the convention gives you, and you're going to have to split it 5 different ways. So this is just kind of like a internet version of a splitter, I guess if you could say it that way. And you need it obviously when you have multiple Ethernet devices, but also I've been in situations where you'll find that a switch is good if you have multiple streams going on at once. So like I've been in situations where we had 5 different streams going off at once, and they were all in different languages. So they were being translated to English and Spanish and Japanese, etc. So, but we only had one hardline connection, so we plugged into the switch, and then we split it out 5 different ways from the hardline connection to 5 boxcasters. So you can kind of just check it out. I'll show you real quick. It's a very simple device. It's not complicated like the other things. You just plug one Ethernet port in, and then you've got these options over here. And the link I have to the switch that's recommended is like $60, but I think you can get them for like $20, $30. They're not very expensive, and they're handy to take with you everywhere.
Right. And I think we're done with all of our gear. The only other thing I'll mention while we're on this shot is our memory card case. This was the best $12 investment we ever got, because we have a lot of memory cards, and we used to carry them around in a little
they're very easy to lose.
If you have this and you need to use it,
buy a memory card case.
$12.
Also, you won't destroy your memory cards. You won't lose all that important
data that you just did.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very important.
So
like I said earlier, if you just want to check out all the products we recommended today, go ahead and click on the link in the description. Check out our kit site. Check out everything we recommend. If you have any recommendations for us, feel free to comment in the video. And now we'll move on to a little bit of a live Q&A.
Yeah,
session.
no, we actually have a lot of questions. So, and we thank you all so much for staying with us through the madness and getting to this point. I think these questions are really, really going to help.